Film. Have you been thinking about picking up a Canon EOS R or a Sony A7 III, one of the hot mirrorless cameras this year? Well, check out these pros and cons to see which one's right for you. Okay, so here's some general pros and cons of each camera. So on the A7 III, you've got a flip out screen, but it doesn't go all the way out, okay? It just comes out like that. What you can do on the EOS R, you can actually flip the screen out here and see yourself while you're shooting. So the screen also can flip back in, boom, and it's on the back. You can actually flip it in and protect it if you're in a tornado or a sharknado or just clumsy. Another feature that differs on these cameras is the memory cards. The EOS R only has one memory card slot, which I really wish it had two. It's a professional grade camera and it would be nice to be able to back up pictures or shoot RAW and JPEG to each card. The A7 III does have dual memory cards, which is really nice. So that's definitely a plus for the A7 III. Internal body stabilization. The A7 III has it, the EOS R doesn't. It's a huge opportunity here on the A7 III. You can stabilize your footage while shooting handheld. It looks great. I wish the EOS R had it. There's a digital IBIS on the EOS R. It's gonna crop in on your footage a lot and it looks a little bit digital. You can use image stabilized EF lenses on the EOS R, so it's better than nothing, but I really wish they had built that internally. It's a nice feature. The color of these cameras is somewhat subjective. Some people prefer the Sony look, others prefer the Canon. I personally like the Canon look. I think the skin tones look really nice. So let's take a look at some skin tones on each of these cameras and see how they compare. That's some really nice skin. Let's check out the autofocus on these cameras. Both the EOS R and the A7 III both have great updated autofocus systems. The EOS R has face tracking, as does the A7 III. So here is the EOS R. And here is the A7 III. So we're gonna do a quick autofocus test in low light. I have the EOS R set to 6400 ISO. We're gonna turn the lights off and see how it tracks autofocus in low light. We're only gonna light this with my cell phone flashlight for a real world low light scenario. Everybody loves slow motion, and both of these cameras have the ability to record 60p at 1080. Now the Sony A7 III actually beats out the EOS R in terms of resolution and slow motion. It can do 120 frames per second on the A7 III in 1080, whereas on the EOS R it's only gonna do 720p at 120 frames per second, and it's definitely a bit softer. Let's check out some clips of what these cameras look like in slow motion. Now, if you're looking at that footage on a big screen, the 720p is definitely noticeably softer. If you're viewing your footage on mobile or on a smaller screen, it might not be as noticeable, and you could probably still use it for some different scenarios. So internally, the A7 III is gonna do 4K at 100 megabits per second, 8-bit. On the other hand, the EOS R is gonna go all the way up to 480 megabits in 4K. It's a lot more information there, so when you're pushing the grade in post, you can go a little bit farther on the EOS R. Let's take a look at some footage we shot and see how far we can push it in post. How far can you push that grade? All right, this is one that I'm really interested to see. Both of these cameras are gonna be really good in low light, but let's see how they compare exactly when we bring up that ISO really high. Lights. Here's 6400 ISO. Here's 25,600 ISO. Now the EOS R is going to go up to 40,000 natively in ISO. It can actually be expanded to 102,000. Now the A7 III goes natively up to 51,200 ISO, and you can also expand that as well up to 102,000. And here's 102,400 ISO. Now let's look at the difference in each camera at 1080 in low light, as well as each camera in 4K in low light. They're gonna respond a little bit differently in each of those resolutions, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at some S-log footage on the Sony and some C-log from the Canon and see how they compare when graded. I really like the aesthetic of the C-log and the color on the Canon. To me, it has a more cinematic look. It looks more filmic. The Sony does look really nice too though, and the colors on this camera as compared to their older A7S cameras, I feel like have improved quite a bit. Ooh, sweet little cinema lenses. We're gonna throw on the trusty 35mm CNE T1.5 on the EOS R. Here we go. Lens is on. Using the EOS R to EF adapter here. Turning the camera on. So when you have the cinema lens on, it's gonna tell you right here, manual focus only. Okay, so that's coming on because we have the cinema lens. As you can see, all of the settings are available, unlike the EFS lenses, which can disable some of these settings. Now for photographers, megapixels always matter. The A7 III has 24 megapixels, which is a lot. It can let you blow up your images. But on the EOS R, you're actually gonna get 30.3 megapixels, which is a lot. You can crop in on your images. You can print them up a little bit bigger. So it's definitely nice to have those extra megapixels if you're planning to shoot big. Now when shooting 4K, the EOS R crops your sensor. It's one of the things that I wish that they had included. The A7 III gives you a full 4K readout, full frame, which looks beautiful, it's really nice. I wish that they had it on the EOS R, so that's one of the biggest drawbacks to me on the EOS R. But in 1080, you do get full frame on the EOS R, it looks great. If you're shooting 1080, you'll be fine. If you're shooting in 4K, it still looks good, but it doesn't have that same aesthetic as a full frame camera. So these cameras both have a lot of benefits. There's pros and cons to each one. So let us know in the comments which one you think is better and which one you're gonna pick up. And please like and subscribe for new videos every Friday.